Hi, everyone. My name's Serena. I am the Academy Director for Words, Beats, and Life. We're here today with our second event from our college material program for this session. Today is going to be a college essay writing workshop. And I have some guests with me today. I have two of our students, Potee and Saniya. And we also have Mazi Mutafa, our Executive Director, that will be here helping us today, too. Hey everyone. Potee, you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Potee. I'm from Washington, D.C. And I think that's it.
Thank you for that. Sanaya, what about you?
Hey everyone, my name is Saniya and I come from Maryland.
Awesome. And Mazi.
Hey, my name is Mazi Mutafa, and I'm the Executive Director of Words, Beats, and Life. And I come from Evelyn Lopez. That would be my mother.
Shout out to mom. All right, cool. So our college material program is meant to help our young people learn more about what college is, as well as how to get there, how to afford it, how to stay in school, but also like that part of getting there, right? So today we're really focusing on these college essays and some really great tips on how to write these essays. It's never too early to learn how to do this properly. And most of these essay prompts can be reused when you're filling out scholarships, right? You'll just change it a little bit, but you won't have to rewrite the entire thing. Anything you want to add to that, Mazi?
I think some people don't even know that essays are a part of applying to college. And I know, like, one of the things that most of my teachers in high school honestly never told me why I was learning what I was learning. I just knew I had a test and I needed to get grades, but they didn't necessarily tell me how to use the things that they were teaching me beyond their classroom. And unfortunately, I think that's true. That's still true to this day for a lot of young people, that they go to classes and their whole focus is on getting grades and passing tests, but not necessarily learning how to use the things that they're learning. And so I wish that my English teacher had told me my freshman year, hey, you should actually pay attention to how to spell these things and do this punctuation, because you're going to need to write an essay one day to convince someone to change your life by letting you come to their university. I got really fortunate though, and I feel like you probably have had a. What about your journey? Like, when did you start thinking about your college essay, Serena?
I mean, for me, it was always something that I had to do, like writing, reading. Um,
Really? Kindergarten? So kindergarten, on the first day of kindergarten, your father was like, "Pay attention. You got to use this on your college essay."
Well, this sounds crazy, but and I hated it growing up, but like I thank my dad now, degrees and doctorate later, but he had bought me these little genius encyclopedias and he would pick the topic and I would have to write a report about it. So I learned about reading comprehension and writing really early on, and then I had to present that. So that's something I learned from a really, really young age. And then I had great teachers throughout that really made me focus on my grammatics and spelling and all those things. So definitely happened early on, but I feel like it really came full circle when I was like in middle school, probably because they were really focusing on you have to learn this now so you can get into college type thing. But also so you can have a professional career, right? Like nobody wants to read an email from somebody that's like riddled with nonsense that doesn't make any sense.
It happens.
It
But
does. It does.
you know what's interesting though is that a lot of the work, at least it was 100 years ago when I went to high school, but I really don't remember writing a lot about myself. Like, I would write about books, or I'd write about movies, or maybe I'd write about a place that we all went on a field trip. But it wasn't a lot of opportunity to write about myself, to tell my own story. And it feels like that's one of the things that this workshop is dedicated to, getting young people to recognize the real value in the skills and experiences that they've already had that would make them a great member of a collegiate community.
Yeah, that's a great point because most college admissions want you to show emotion, right? They want you to respond to some type of emotion that you have and write it. So, thankfully for Poe and Sanaya, you all are in a poetry class where you write about your feelings and, things that go on in your life all the time. So you're kind of channeling those emotions through your poetry. So thinking about your essays as a longer poem, right, to help you get into school with where you want to go in your profession. So that's definitely a change for sure, to have to write about yourself and your own experiences.
I mean, I think that's a great point, that young people who are able to participate in educational experiences that might be more creative are encouraged to center their own experience. One of my favorite organizations on planet Earth, other than Words Beats Life, is this group called I almost said Words Beats Life. It's called You Speaks, and they teach poetry by encouraging young people to think about their lives as primary text. What does that mean? So, like, if you're in a lit class in high school or even middle school, and you're reading other people's books, the things that people have written about themselves or other people they've imagined, You Speak says, no, 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 no. Take your own life and center that as the primary text that you're drawing inspiration from to create and tell the stories that you want to tell. And I think that that's a really beautiful sentiment. And one of the things that I love about being a part of a creative community is that encouraging young people to use their imaginations is the whole deal. It's like, we can teach you skills, but if you can't imagine something other than what we showed you, you're only going to be able to create what we showed you versus show us what you know, teach us. And this idea of reciprocal education, where you can teach us through your own experiences that we haven't had. You bring something unique to the table. And I think that that's also the thing that colleges are asking for. They're asking for you to share what makes you unique, what makes you someone that would be an addition to our community and who we would benefit from learning from you.
Yeah, they're really looking for a deeper dive into you as a person, your character, your values, what you value and why, and exactly what Mazi was saying, like how you would add to their college community. So we see Kay said, yes, after getting my full ride scholarship offer at Ohio State. Boo, I went to Penn State. The director told me a few years into college that the essay is really what set me apart. I mean, that's a great point, Kay. Thank you. That's exactly what it is. Like, the only way they get to know you is literally on paper through an application. They're looking at your extracurricular, they're looking at your GPA, your scores, like your SAT or ACT, depending on what you have to take. And then your essay is the time to really give them a full, focus and overview of who you are and why you want to be a part of their collegiate community. And sometimes there's an interview, but those are like few and far between. So this is your only time sometimes to really like drive home who you are and why you want to be on this college campus.
Potee and Saniya, I'm curious because both of you are writers. Can you all think of times where it's been important for you to share your story, like an audience? And especially for you, Saniya, I know you've been in multiple competitions. Has there been an interview process as a part of any of those? Or make sure when you're ready to share, just go ahead and turn on your microphones.
Yeah, I know for me, there's been like a couple of times where I had to fill out this sort of interview, but it wasn't in person. I guess I would say those times where I needed to share my voice had to do with an opportunity that kind of pulled me towards seeking justice in the world. I remember this one competition was about finding different situations, different problems that poetry can help solve, and enlightening people on these different topics.
That's dope, Saniya. I love that. I would actually really love to read some of that you already have written. Andy said, don't be afraid to be creative in your essays. Try to find ways to stand out. Exactly. And that is why we want to invoke our emotions and write that clearly and concisely. Potee, what about you?
Let me see. Oh yeah, one time I had to, with my school, they made me I had to be in front of the audience and tell everybody like what makes me unique and different from others. But at first it was hard to do because it was like so many people. But I just closed my eyes and then I got in tune with myself and I shared every experience that I could with everybody so they could relate and feel how I feel about certain subjects in the world.
That man said I had to get in tune with myself to tell that story. That's what I'm talking about, Potee. So now we're about to talk about how to apply that to an essay process, right?
Yep. So just the College Material Program, College and Essay Writing Workshop, and we can also think of this as a scholarship writing workshop because they pretty much go hand in hand. I'll read from mine until I can see it up on the screen. But so I can see it there. I can't see it when we go to the other one.
Okay.
All good. So when we're thinking about essay writing, there's some steps we want to make sure that we're taking. So we always want to be proactive. Start early in your writing process. Don't wait until the last minute because you want to give your best efforts. And a lot of times you cannot do that if you procrastinate. And you also can't get the help that you may need from others like myself or Mazi or any of your teachers that are willing to really give their time to you and helping you make sure that you can get into the school you want, as well as our volunteer college material coaches. This is what we're here to do. But if you come to us last minute, it's kind of hard for us to really help, right? Personalize it. So choose a topic that you genuinely enjoy and don't be afraid to get personal. So that's like what we're talking about, invoking these emotions and feelings and really being transparent with your experiences so that the person in admissions that's reading your essay can really get to know you the best they can through your writing. And choose a topic that, like it says, you genuinely enjoy, so it shouldn't feel like such a hard task. It should be more like, I'm kind of going through these motions, right? I'm learning, I can write all this really easily and it doesn't feel like a huge chore. Know your audience. So of course, it's the admissions or whomever may be awarding scholarships, but know more about them. Look into the university, look into, what they're about, what their morals are, what their ethics are, any mottos that they have, and see if there's a way that you can connect that to your essays. I missed that. There we go. The personal, the better, because it becomes a little easier to write. Exactly, Nisha. Keep it personal. I remember one essay I had to write was about a character from any show, movie, etc. Do you resonate? Which one do you resonate with most? And it was definitely a prompt created to hear about who we were in a creative way. Exactly, Kay. Thank you. So that leads us into following the prompt instructions. So with things like Common App, there's all these prompts, and make sure that you're actually answering the question that's there. Don't run off on a tangent and really stay focused on what you're supposed to be writing about. Just like you do in school or did in school, you were given an assignment and you had questions to answer, and that's what you should be answering.
Hey, Serena, so the first one, be proactive. So unlike you, I was not a stellar student fresh out the womb. I really struggled, and I struggled for a number of reasons. But I'll be honest, I can't think of I can't think. I know it was difficult for me to figure out who to be proactive with. I actually took an SAT class, but then when it came down to like who I would get to write me letters for college, those letters of recommendation, or to read my essay, there weren't really a bunch of teachers lining up to say, yes, enroll Mazi. He's great. And so thinking about this idea of being proactive, like what does it mean to be proactive, especially if you go to a school where you don't necessarily have relationships in that school?
Yeah. So, like I was saying, like be proactive, meaning, speak to the people that you view as teachers, even outside of, your everyday school, people that maybe are mentors to you or adults that just believe in you. So, students here at the academy, they ask me all the time for recommendation letters. And I'll be honest, the ones that I can get done really fast are the ones that tell me way ahead. So I had students ask me over the summer for their recommendation letters for this coming school year. So I had it on my calendar to do. So really tapping into people, adults and people like that, that really you feel that really believe in you and want to take time in your success. So that can look like family, friends. If you have a job, maybe your boss or manager, teachers that even if they're not your teacher, but you interact with them in some way, your academy teachers, any other programs that you do outside of WBL that you really interact with adults that can write you a good recommendation letter. And a lot of times, what I like for students to do is tell me what their hopes and dreams are so that I can focus on those in their recommendation letter. So don't just ask somebody to write a recommendation for you, give them some information about yourself past what they may already know, and let them know, like, I'm applying to this school because I want to do whatever you want to do, because I want to be a doctor or I want to be, a journalist or anything like that, so that they can really make sure that they're focusing and, the tone of their recommendation is what you really need it to be. Andy said there are always people that are more than happy to help you, just a matter of communicating to them. Yes, for sure.
I'm curious. This know your audience. This research the school or scholarship provider, but I don't know anybody that's ever gone to college. How am I supposed to know this audience? They're totally foreign to me.
Yeah, I would say if you don't, I mean, what school you're applying to. So in my opinion, when I'm saying know your audience, I'm saying look into that school, right? You're not going to know the exact admissions officer, but you can Google the school, right? You can look into what their campus is about, maybe some of what their student life is about. Most of them have Instagrams now, so they'll have different things on there. You can just really do some research about the community that you're trying to be a part of. So if you like, for instance, I went to Penn State for undergrad. It's all about honor and tradition. It's on like everything, right? So I really focused on how I'm an honorable person and I value tradition, so really using the things that you find out about the institutions that you want to be a part of and using that in your essay to help you gain some footing with the admissions.
The other thing I love to remind students who say they don't know anybody that went to college is that they go to a school every day filled with people that went to college. So getting feedback from teachers is also another way to 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 engage someone who's been through a university experience.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great thing. That's a great point, Mazi. Did Poe or Saniya, did either of you have any questions about what I've said so far?
I was just wondering, what would you say is like a time, or I guess, how much time would you give yourself to complete the essay? If that makes sense. Like, would you say like a few months before the essay's due, or
Hey, Serena,
Yeah.
especially for like,
before
Uh-huh.
you answer, can I watch this?
Kay said, I reached out sometimes to the admissions officers or scholarship program directors months before or summers before applying for college with questions just to have my name in the mix. That's a really great tip, Kay, because they won't forget your name, you know what I mean? Or it'll jog their memory now when your application comes across their desk. But exactly what Kay said, if you are, it's never too early for me. So I feel like middle school age, you start thinking about, what college is and how do you want to get there, and really practicing your writing skills so that you can feel confident in them when you have to submit these essays and applications. I would say by the end of your sophomore year, you really should be practicing even more, like making it a priority, having people read over them, being comfortable with expressing thoughts and writing about your experiences and you as a person. And then junior year, like really getting those things cracked, just coming out, so that people can really help you with that, just really writing as much as you can. And then, the summer before your senior year is prime time to make sure that you have these things in order. But I would say it's never too early, especially if you know from now that I'm going to go to college, which you all should. you know, you all can go there. You all can get this education. It's a right for you as well. So, really just thinking ahead and giving yourself that time so you don't feel so overwhelmed, because it's going to feel like a lot anyway. So give yourself ample time to really learn these skills properly.
Yes, I definitely had a question. So what if a person has like a weak mindset, procrastination, and how do you turn like a weak set mindset procrastination person to a strong set person to do the essay?
Well, that's a great question, Potee. I will not lie to you all. I was definitely a procrastinator. I still am sometimes, but it adds to my stress levels, right? So I have to do better with doing things ahead of time. So honestly, it's an inside job. If you have to, what do you value? What do you want to see in your life, and what work do you want to put behind it? So if you want to go to college, you have to be able to do these tasks that are going to get you there. You have to put the time in, and dedication and consistency and holding yourself accountable are the best ways. So I would say maybe write a list of what you value and the goals that you're trying to achieve. And sometimes, if those goals are too big or they seem overwhelming, try breaking it down into smaller goals so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming, so that you don't procrastinate so much. Because sometimes that's why. It's not that you actually don't want that end product, it's that it seems like too much. Nisha said, as a person who has struggled and has been a procrastinator but is working to refigure out college, how would you go about that? So, Nisha, I would say about the same. I would say sit down and really have a one-on-one with yourself, or have a one-on-one with somebody that you trust, whether that be me or your mom or whoever, and just say, I need help writing down my goals. And if you have a goal of, I want to complete college, okay, or I want to get into college, okay, how do we get you there? And break it down into smaller steps and take it one step at a time so that you can get through it and not feel so overwhelmed.
Something else worth considering is that maybe going to school full time isn't for you. Maybe you want to start off at a junior college or a community college to take one or two classes while you work. I know, to be honest though, I know that wasn't an option for me because one of the biggest challenges when you graduate from high school is your desire to make money, to be able to buy things, to live on your own, etc. And that's really, when you're young, a great way to run up debt that you can't that you have to keep working to pay back. I know lots of times people talk about college and debt, but that's debt that's deferred until you graduate. And by deferred, I mean postponed, or you pay it later. And even then, when you graduate, you can still continue to defer it until you feel like you're in a financial position to actually be able to pay it back. But I have a friend who I met him at the University of Maryland. He basically flunked out, and then he went to Prince George's Community College off and on for several years, and then he really started to take it seriously, made the dean's list, got a full scholarship to go back to the University of Maryland, and got his bachelor's degree. It took him a long time to do it, but it also took him a while not because he was a procrastinator, but because he had responsibilities out in the world that he needed to take care of. And so maybe going right after high school is not for you. I took a year off, and to be frank, the reason why I went back was because my father offered me a scholarship that he never paid off, which was, he said every A I would get, he would pay for, and he paid for none of them. But he tricked me into getting back into school, which was helpful. Um, yeah. So be gentle with yourself if you're a procrastinator. It's about establishing your priorities and where does this fit in it. It might not be at the top of the list, but as long as it's on the list, college is always going to be there. It's just the longer you wait, the harder it is to go back because you have more bills and responsibilities, or maybe children, etc.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think you have to take all these things into account, especially in this time of COVID. And there's all of, this distance learning and virtual learning. Um, it might make more sense to go to a school that costs a whole lot less if you're going to be virtual anyway. Just make sure that whatever credits you're taking virtually are going to then transfer wherever you really would like to finish and matriculate to get your whatever degree you're working toward. But A bachelor's degree that you get at 21 is the same degree that somebody's getting at 30. So exactly what Mazi said, like be gentle with yourself, and it just depends on the priorities that you have going on in your life. Kay said, yes, Serena, there's so many things that go into applying for college, and organizing everything on a Google Doc or sheet by school and listing each of the required documents and essays was helpful. Yeah, for sure. There's highlighting each one as you get done with them early does help. Yeah, it's kind of like creating a project plan for yourself. Thank you, Kay. Where you can really list those things out. I used a notebook. I was an early millennial, but I'm sure now you guys are all into Google Docs. So that's a good way to keep track of everything that you need. So tracking like GPA, when is the essay due? When is the application due? All of these different things. A lot of schools use Common App now, so you would write one essay and you can use it, for all of your applications. So that would make it way easier if all the schools you want to apply to are using the Common App. Can I have the next slide, Mazi?
That is the next slide.
Oh.
It is. This was the first slide. This is the second slide.
Third.
Oh, you're not going to cover these?
I already did those.
Bam.
Wait, no, the third. Go back. Sorry.
That was the third slide.
It was showing me the second. I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong one. Vulnerability is power. Don't be afraid to get personal. Share your emotions, struggles, and our experiences. So that's exactly what we've been talking about. Being comfortable enough to write about your experiences and being transparent about them. Honestly, I mean, I know that's weird, but like you're probably never going to see that admissions person anyway. So, like you don't have to feel like, oh, I'm going to get judged or anything like that. It's totally okay. I know when I was writing my essay to get into law school, I wrote about basically like what made me want to become a lawyer, and it got pretty personal about some struggles that my older brother has had with the law and being in and out of prison, which I don't really talk about and don't share, not because I'm embarrassed, but just because it's just nobody's business. But I know that was something that really made the admissions feel like, okay, she would be she has a personal tie to the legal system and wants to be a part of this. So also editing. Make sure you edit. Make sure this is a part of that, not procrastinating. Because if you procrastinate, you don't have time to edit, like you just have to go with it. So edit. Make sure you edit. Have multiple people look at it. Like I edit things for Mazi all the time. He looks at things for me. Like we are a team. I send things to my best friend who's a journalist. Like people want to help you, right? Like closed mouths don't get fed, but if you do, it's all about timing and how you approach things. So proofread for spelling and grammar because they truly matter. If you can't take the time to edit, then they're probably going to think that you're not going to take the time to take your studies, serious enough to be successful in their college community. Did you have anything to add to that, Mazi?
Yeah, editing is crucial. I'm terrible at it. But the best way to edit yourself is to give yourself time to write something and walk away from it. So when you come back to look at it, you've got fresh eyes. Versus if you write it today and it's due tomorrow and you're editing it, it's going to be much harder. But it's also helpful to have other people read what you're writing, even if they haven't necessarily gone to college, to make sure that the things you're trying to convey in writing actually come across in what it is that you write.
Yeah, that's it. That's a great point. I know something that was really drilled into me during law school is I have to explain everything. Like you cannot take for granted that the person reading it is going to understand the term you use or understand the feeling that you're trying to get through in your writing, because they don't know you. They don't know the experience. So make sure that you're really taking the time to really explain what you're trying to get across so that people fully understand it. And that's the best way to do it. Have people that don't even know what this is about basically read it and tell you what they think of it.
Think about all the times you sent a text or an email where you were trying to convey some sort of an emotion or a feeling and it got misread. Now picture doing that with someone who can decide whether or not you can come. Like, let people read it and take the feedback. Take the feedback. It's never personal. It's always helpful.
Yep, exactly. Tone is going to be everything, and tone is really hard to get across in writing. So you want to be mindful of that. Find your style of writing. 3 different styles of writing. I don't know what that was supposed to say, but write for your strengths, but then also write for some of your weaknesses and show that you can work through them. So really just, find your style of writing as you're writing going through. So um, if you're really good at painting these beautiful pictures, which honestly I've read both of your poetry and your work, so you all can do that, right? But maybe you struggle on the keeping it concise. So that's a strength and a weakness. So you have to find that middle ground with finding your style of writing and also how you're going to portray that in a longer essay. Nisha said, I understand it gets harder to gain access to scholarships the older you get. Where do you look for help? I would ask people in your network. So I know I consistently share scholarship opportunities with you all. Mazi shares them. We get them to our emails and we share them with all of you. But ask, your teachers, ask community leaders, ask anybody that you're in contact with, ask leaders of organizations because a lot of times they have some type of scholarship. So, and also Google. I'm like I said, I'm a millennial, so I'll Google anything. Like you can literally look up scholarships in your area, and if you are part of a specific group, like I'm a woman of color, so maybe I look up scholarships for women in color in a certain area.
I tell you, Kay must be channeling you.
Yeah, she definitely is, right? Kay said searching different identities and interests you have and adding scholarship plus opening every tab you possibly can, saving all the ones you're eligible for, looking up scholarships for Black women. Yeah, literally, Kay is totally in tune with me on the same wavelength. But yeah, as you find them, I usually just copy and paste the link into a into an email draft for myself, right? So I can easily go back, click the link, and go through. Um, Also, like look at the essay prompts. Most of them, sometimes you need to write some type of essay. So ones that correlate, that might be easier for you to do a whole bunch at once. So that's a good way to like get a lot done and work smarter, not harder.
Can I add to that? There's a resource that's online. If you live in the DMV area or New York City, and I think Los Angeles, there's a place called the Foundation Center where you can go in to apply to find scholarships. They have a whole library of scholarships for individuals that do all the things that Serena said. Yes, Google is a great place, but a lot of places that give out scholarships don't have websites because they're run by older folks who don't necessarily love technology and want to get some paper in the mail. Two, if you or anybody in your family is a part of any organization, whether that's a place of worship or whether that's a fraternal organization or sorority, that most of those organizations, like Serena said, have scholarships, and usually they give the scholarships to people who are related to people that are members. So again, looking at your network, Mama, where you go to church every Sunday? They got scholarships there, and the answer hopefully is yes. Dad, you're spending your weekends out with your fishing buddies in this organization called, Men Who Fish. Do they got a scholarship? Yes, they do. A lot of times scholarships go unapplied for, or not enough people apply because it's not a big enough scholarship. So it's great to get that full ride scholarship that Kay talked about, but maybe you got to build a scholarship portfolio with like 10 $1,000 scholarships as opposed to 10,000. The smaller ones, fewer people go after them, so it's more likely you'll get them.
Yeah, I agree. I know for me personally, I had gotten scholarships through the PTA in my community, the teachers organization, my dad's football group, like all these different places. And none of them were that big per se, especially not for the type of tuition we were getting ready to pay. But they covered books, they covered travel, they covered like anything I needed for, a long period of time. So they add up those little, we want to call them little $500 scholarships. I mean, as an adult, I'd love any type of scholarship if I could still get them. So, it all adds up, even if it just pays for your books and some room and board or whatever it may be. So definitely always apply. And like Mazi said, a lot of times there's not a lot of applicants. and all you have to do is submit. Like, take the time to just submit the essay. You know, a lot of times people don't want to write the essay, and that's a shame because people want to give this money to you all. So that's a great way to think of it, and also just continue to like look in your area, like look up organizations in the area, even if they don't have websites, like Mazi said, and you can like call or stop by if they're close to you and ask them anything about do you offer any scholarships, and if and when you are going to go to a particular college, call the financial aid office and ask them about scholarships, or anybody, you know, their student center, or look for the groups on campus to see if any of them offer some type of scholarship for incoming students as well.
And scholarships aren't just to get to school; they're also to help you graduate. I know I was a super senior and had basically run out of financial aid, but I was a student leader, and so I literally went to the president's office. I was like, "Yo, I'm about to drop out because I can't afford to stay here." And suddenly it was like, "Oh, such and such, call over to financial aid." And suddenly there's a president's scholarship that paid for my last 2 semesters, just because I went and told somebody, because I had stood out. I was someone who was active on campus, and so there's opportunities everywhere. You actually just need to keep your eyes open and stand out.
Yeah, that's a great point, Mazi. I remember my junior year, my dad got laid off from work, and it was really hard to afford school anymore. So I had gone to financial aid and spoke to somebody, and they told me what funding to apply for that I would then be denied for. But once I was denied, I was then eligible to get all this other funding that would help me stay in school. So sometimes there's technicalities, and people do want to help you. They just don't know that you need the help. And there was also somebody in the liberal arts college who looked out for students of color, and he bought my books for the last 2 sessions that I was there, semesters, and it really helps. So having those connections really helps in networking. Kay said, reach out to the Office of Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity at whatever schools you want to apply to. They exist to help serve students who need access. Thank you, Kay. And this, we've said this, but pay attention to detail, be concise, know the character limit. Like if it says 1,000 words, don't give them 700, you know, give them 1,000 at least. Try not to go too much over. Like you want to pay attention to the detail and instructions, because that's going to say a lot. I know when I was reading through scholarships that we had, students that did not even get close to the number, I kind of just went past, because it didn't seem like you wanted to really, you know, put all your efforts forward, especially when there's so many applicants. That's a way for them to just, you know, get rid of some and move on. So definitely pay attention to all those things for the requirements for the essays. Okay, so in your essays, you want to reveal your character. Your character shows up in 3 places on applications. I've said this before. You know, if there's an interview, if there is one, the involvement in extracurricular activities, and your essay. So, you know, the essay is going to be the most immediate and illuminating way for admissions folks to read through thousands of applications and get to know you. So you want to take it serious and put your best efforts forward.
I'm curious, for Potee and Saniya, I'm curious, Potee and Saniya, I'm curious, when you all read books, how important is like the first page of the book?
Very important.
Why?
It determines whether I want to keep reading or not, or whether I give it a shot. So I feel like I know where this is headed with like introductions and stuff in your essay.
Well, it's one of the most basic things that we often forget is that there are real people reading the things we write. And that real person, if they're an admissions officer, is reading hundreds, if not thousands, of other people's essays. So what is it that you're going to do to stand out? How are you going to introduce your story in a way that someone says, huh, I want to keep reading this? Because at the end of the day, the people that make decisions sometimes make them based on objective sets of criteria. Did you hit all these? Did you tick all these boxes? But sometimes it's like, I really want to meet this person. This person sounds like someone I would actually enjoy maybe becoming a mentor to. This is someone I want to see be successful in life, and I think that coming to our campus will help do that. So like, it's a lot of pressure, but this is also why it's important to start working and thinking about it early. You could, each of you right now after this session could Google scholarships and find which ones have essay, and to identify prompts, and just start working on creating narrative for that prompt. Do you know what I'm saying? Not even to apply, just to practice. And one of the most famous things Allen Iverson is quoted as saying, practice? We talk about practice. And the truth is that practice makes better. If you really want to do a thing, you got to practice it before it's really showtime. Next slide, Serena.
Yep. So that leads me into this. So something that I usually find helpful is to like add like a touch of humor. Now I'm not saying hit them with a corny joke, even though I love a corny joke. But don't be dry. Have some movement of feeling throughout your essay, which I know you all can do because, like I said, I've read your work. So you want to evoke some type of emotion, and whether that be humor or compassion or empathy, whatever it may be. Um, like I said before, focusing on tone, mechanics matter. So making sure that you've got that grammar and spelling down. And if you don't, asking people, yes, Andy, add some flavor to your essays. Exactly. If you don't, if you're not strong with your grammar and spelling, know that about yourself, right? Be aware of that and ask for help with that so that somebody can help you really make your essay that much better. And like Mazi was saying, you want to always open strong, have a great opening paragraph, have a great conclusion, and make sure that you're beginning and ending with how amazing you are so that they know all about you the most that they can in an essay so that they want to see you at their college. Um, the most engaging and compelling essays tell a story and have a clear focus. And you want to show that you can write. Colleges want to see that you have a command over the basics of good writing, which is a key component of success in college. So does all that make sense?
Yeah. Quick question.
Sure.
So I guess something that stood out to me was clear focus. Um, as someone who does poetry, I tend to like it because I could just go on and on and on and on and just keep adding on. But how would you know when to stop, cut it short before you bore them?
Yeah. Well, for me, Saniya, I always do an outline. So I start off with what do I want to have in my opening and what I want to have in my closing. And then I have bullets for the things that I want to absolutely hit throughout the body of my essay. So if you have 1,000 words to give, if you've only gotten through your intro and the first point and you're at 500 words, there's no way you're going to fit all that, So you have to shrink it down and, put in the best parts of what you're saying. Because sometimes when we're doing like these run-on sentences and even just like over explaining in our writing, we're saying the same thing over and over, right? So really take the time and edit yourself down. Being able to self edit is a real skill that we're all working on, and I think it's a great skill that you all are trying to hone into now at a young age so that you'll be even better than like we are at our age. Like that is our hope, and I know that you all will do that. So what I would say is write it the way that you feel. This is a part of starting early. Write it the way that you feel and then put it aside for a little bit, whether that be a day or two, and come back and say, okay, now how do I edit this? How do I cut it down? Did I need these 3 sentences to explain this same point? I don't know, maybe not. You know what I'm saying? Cool. Potee, did you have any questions?
Like, uh,
All good. I think we're having some technical difficulties with Poe.
Y'all
All
can hear
right.
me
So
now?
yes, we can.
So so you made a great point about like an outline, because in school they made us do that all the time. Because for me, I would write and not have no sentences, no commas. I just write to the whole page. And like my teachers would get on me about it. They were like, "I know this is good, but you don't have no periods or nothing in the thing." So they kind of gave me an outline, and I had to write every sentence out, and then do the commas and add periods and more subject to the matter. So it helped me a lot, though.
Yeah, for sure. You want to add order to anything that you're writing, right? You want it to make sense and flow so that somebody is engaged. Like you said, Saniya, you want that first page in a book to be jarring almost and really capture your attention so that you want to keep reading however many pages come behind. So that is the same energy that you want to try and keep when you're writing these essays. How can I grab whoever is reading this and then keep them engaged throughout, and then wrap it up at the end and tie with a nice little bow with my conclusion. Okay. And then there's so many essay prompts. So the ones that I've got here are some of the more common ones, and they really do speak to. Can I have the next slide? Or did you want to say anything on that, Mazi?
Okay.
Okay. They really speak to different areas, right? So there's always the background essay, which is like, who are you? What are your interests in? Why are they meaningful to you? And if that's something that you really, want to express in that way, then that's what you should write about. And that sometimes sounds like the easiest route, but sometimes it's not, right? Because maybe you haven't figured all that out, or maybe you don't feel like you can write 1,000 words about that. But if you do want to write this, again, start out with an outline. What are your best qualities? What are things that you struggle with, and how are you working through them? Those are all things, because if you only say all the shining, bright star things about yourself, that can be a little alarming too. Like, oh, they don't think that they need to work on anything, or what would they actually learn here at our college? How would we help to enrich their lives? So you want to be honest in them as well. Then there's the challenge essay. So those are lessons that we take from obstacles that we encounter, which most times lead to success. For me, all of my greatest successes have come from failures first, and you have to be afraid not to fail. And really, it's how you pick yourself back up and keep going. So being able to talk about that and write about that effectively and explain like how it affected you and what did you learn from it and how you're going to do better now that you've had this experience is really going to be touching for an admissions counselor. And
Serena, did you say that right? Because you said you have to be afraid not to fail. Did you mean you have to not be afraid to fail, or did you actually say that the way you meant it?
I don't remember how I just said it, but yeah, I meant you have to be afraid not, like you're going to fail, so don't be afraid not to.
You have to not be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
It's a great point, just because failures, like to my own experiences, the only things that are actual failures are things you don't learn from. And so if you fail at something and you don't learn from it, you're going to keep making that failure until you learn to do it differently, till you learn a way that gets you the results that you want. And so, like, I know that we live in a society where it's about testing and about grades, which are important, but those are really just measures of understanding and memory and comprehension. Some people have terrible memories. I'm a terrible test taker. And so with that, it's also about finding the environment that you're going to want to go and be a part of. Like, we haven't mentioned this yet, but there's a program at the University of Wisconsin-Madison called First Wave, and it's for first generation people who want to go to college, really focused on people who are poets and hip hop artists. Like, and the whole purpose for them is that just like Kay talked about earlier, it was created as a part of their diversity and inclusion initiative to be able to bring people out to Wisconsin, where it snows a lot, and there's not necessarily a ton of people of color. And so they created this program to bring first generation people of color to college with a scholarship for free. There's other places like that. It's just a matter of finding them and knowing that this is a place where you're going to thrive, or believing this is a place you're going to thrive.
And if that's something you're interested in, if there's a specific environment you're searching for and you're not able to find like what school actually has that, ask for help. Like we were talking about these mentors and teachers and, leaders of organizations or groups that you may be a part of or your family. Somebody probably can help you find these things. And I know we can here at WBL. So that's one of the main focuses with college material is really helping you figure out where you even want to go to school and why, because you can go to an incredibly rural location and maybe you're a city person and it just doesn't work for you. So like that's something that you want to be taking into account, especially if you already know like what will and won't work for you. So there's 7 of these prompts. There's the belief essay, which is you're going to reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted you to challenge that in your thinking? What was the outcome, and would you challenge that thinking again? That one's kind of difficult. Like even when I thought about it, I was like, I don't even know what I would write about, or I do kind of know what I would write about, but how would I say that nicely and eloquently? So to my point of make sure that you're picking something that you can write about and you can write about it really well. So then the gratitude essay is reflecting on something that someone has done for you that made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has that gratitude affected or motivated you? How did it help you get to this point? How will it continue to make you be your best self and push through while you're at school and maybe struggling and late night studying and all those things? Like how will it continue to make you the best version of yourself? And there's the accomplishment essay, so you can discuss any accomplishment that you've had, an event or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others. This can be anything big or small. Maybe you finally reached one of those goals you wanted. Saniya, maybe you got into a competition and that was something that you were really working toward. Maybe you won that competition. Like there's so many different accomplishments, and sometimes we only think about it in the larger scale, but getting those steps to even get to that larger part is an accomplishment in itself. So being able to really think that through and then writing about it. And then you can kind of pick your own topic. So, describe a topic, idea, or concept you find engaging that it makes you lose track of all your time. Why does it captivate you? Who or what do you turn to when you want to learn more? So now you're smiling because I feel like we talked about this, and maybe you'd write about poetry and how you sometimes forget to do your schoolwork because you're so encapsulated with wanting to write your poetry. And now it also explaining like that that's wrong because you need to prioritize your studies. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, guilty. Some of the times, I do like to write, and it's kind of hard to balance sometimes, just in general, with school and then home and then just what I want to do. And I've actually been kind of experimenting with different schedules, different ways I could create a time frame for myself that's flexible and that could fit like what I have to do for school, what I have to do for home, and then have some time for myself on the side.
That's awesome, Sanaya. Like the realization that you just expressed in those few sentences right now is something that many adults don't even do well, haven't even gotten to that point of realization. So that's totally something that when this time comes, you should definitely write about that because you're going to write about that so well. And that shows your level of maturity, what your priorities are, and what you value, and how you would add to any college community in a positive way.
As we get ready to wrap up, maybe folks that are watching and Sanaya and Potee can share maybe one thing that you learned here today, and if you didn't learn anything, maybe something that you heard that affirmed something you already know. Why don't you go first, Serena?
It is affirmed to me that we have some of the most amazing young people in our programs. And I say this often, but you all are equally as talented as you are intelligent, and I'm always just so happy to be a support to you all, and even just get to know you all and support you through your dreams. So it just affirms the work that I do here. So thank you.
I guess something that I heard that. Oh, you about to say something, Saniya?
Oh no, you could go. You could go.
Ladies first.
Okay. Something that I learned today was how I could still be creative, but at the same time be clear and concise, which is one of the things that I'm still working on today. And then how I can now like write an essay, still be creative, still be interesting, but at the same time I could have an outline like Miss Lewis said, and then I could just go from there, and it wouldn't be a long tangent essay.
Potee, you up?
Thank you.
All right.
His sound keeps clicking him on and off.
Well, I think one of the things that this conversation reminds me of is the fact that there are many, many roads to success, and that they don't all look the same. They don't all take the same amount of time. That there are challenges regardless of how old or how young you are, to be able to realize to be able to achieve or realize the things you hope for yourself, and that it's important along the way that you take control over the voice inside your head that says negative things, to get that voice to say positive things, to get that voice to be gentle with you, to get that voice to affirm your abilities and not tear you down. There's more than enough people in the world who, when they see your success, might want to tear you down. You should never allow yourself to be one of them, because you are great already, and you are where you're supposed to be on your journey. And if college or trade school or community college or going straight to work or being an entrepreneur is your journey, it's yours. And the great thing about your journey is that you can always decide you want to take it in a different direction.
Yep, that's awesome.
Let's take one time. Okay, yes. Let's see what you got, Potee.
Oh man, Saniya was excited too.
All right. So one thing that I learned is how to pick that. The one thing I learned was how to pick the best essay that fits the description of like me. Because sometimes I'll be having like a lot of essay ideas, but go for all of them and it don't work. But I understand like I gotta choose one out of the ones that best describe me.
No doubt. Great lesson, Serena. Thank you so much for being our guide as we learn more about the process of writing essays. Saniya and Potee, thank you so much for joining us with your great questions and your great answers, teaching y'all lessons.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Our next college material event will be a resume writing workshop. And what does that mean for our young people if you don't have that much work experience, So that'll be December 27th. And thank you all for coming.